Welcome to Bridging the Gap. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with a little introductions. Just tell us a little bit about you, and we'll go from there.
My name is Klein. I have worked here for 8 years now. I started as a mental health clinician. In my interview, I remember they asked me if I wanted to be a BCBA, and I was like, what the heck is that? I had no idea at all what I was getting myself into. However, I was like, this company sounds like they're invested in me. It sounds like they want to take a chance on me. Like, I've never just ran into somebody and then be like, I want to pay for your school. So I thought that was really cool. So I joined the crazy train, and I've loved it ever since. And that's kind of how I got here, I guess.
Awesome.
I'm Lisa Eberly. I'm a BCBA. I started here in 2015. I have my bachelor's in psychology, and I didn't know what to do with that after I graduated from college. And then I saw this job posted in a smaller town in Cedar City, and I decided to apply for it.
Were you in Cedar City?
I was in Cedar City at the time.
Oh, nice. Okay.
There was no center. It was just home sessions. And so I had a lot of rapport with the families I was working with at the time. And I was just a interventionist assistant back then. But then I ended up, as the company grew bigger and bigger, we got a center there, and my boss approached me at the time and asked me if I wanted to further my schooling and become a BCBA, and I went for it. So I really enjoyed working in the field, and I loved working with the kids. So.
And what years did you guys start?
2015.
2016 for me.
Nice. Awesome. So just over 8 years now you've been with the company. Let's kind of go into what inspired you. I guess you kind of touched on it a little bit about what inspired you both to start in this field.
I think a lot of childhood experiences I had initially kind of led me to wanting to be a mental health clinician. Just like anybody, I had some things I had to go through that weren't really fun. So I wanted to be able to provide that support to those struggling around me the best to my ability. And then, like I said, when I came here, I didn't know anything behavior. I kind of thought everybody was mean because my bleeding heart was like, why aren't we processing? What is going on? And then as I got further into the behavior field, I was able to recognize, like, wait, we're redirecting behaviors. We still care. And it was mind-opening to me. It was a really cool way to still care about the child, redirect them, teach them skills, and not necessarily have to break down everything too much because not everybody needs that. And so I guess that's kind of my passion, is I just want to help those in need.
Awesome. Lisa, how about you?
When I first started, I was pregnant with my first child. And when I became a BCBA, I had my son by then. And I noticed there were some signs with him, like, he's not making eye contact. He's not responding to his name. Like, socially, he was not meeting some milestones that he should have been. And so as I was going through my schooling, I ended up getting my son tested, and he does have autism. So he kind of inspired me to keep going and getting my BCBA degree. So
Mama Bear.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome. As far as, so you've been here at UTBS for the better part of a decade, close to. As the company has grown, can you kind of explain that a little bit? How have you seen it change, evolve over time? I guess, what have your experiences been here up in the northern part of Utah?
It's been really cool to be a part of. When I first started, we had a really small location out in Clearfield. We were kind of in separate suites. We worked next to some accounting people that did not love us and our noise, and so that was always fun to kind of try to get the kids out of the hall as they're trying to do taxes and things like that. But then we outgrew those spots, and we bought a building in Riverdale, and same thing. We were in a couple suites, and then we exploded out of that building, and now we have an entire campus. So it's been really fun to see, like, the growth over the years and just the tenacity within the staff. And I've never heard the word scrappy so many times until I started at this job, and it is a value that I hold kind of close to my heart now, because I think you can make treatment out of anything. Like, you can pick up some blades of grass and, like, make something out of it. You just have to be creative. And so it's been really fun to see everybody as a team come together and do that as we've grown to get the resources that we need. So it's been really cool.
And with that growth, not only has the company grown so fast and so quickly, how do you feel that the company handles growth for its employees? I know you had mentioned, you didn't have a boss that says, hey, do you want to go back to school or do you want to invest in another certification? Are there other, I guess, can you expand on that a little bit as far as what you've seen?
Yeah. I think the company does a really great job of kind of looking at what's in front of them rather than outsourcing. We see what's in front of our face and who has talent. And then there's a job opening, they open it up and they train for it. And there's tuition programs. And so I've seen many amazing RBTs become really amazing clinicians. I've seen many RBTs join a public relations position. And it's just really fun to be able to watch the different strengths and passions that they have come to life in some way or form of this company, because there's always a spot for everybody and there's always a need. And so it's been really cool to watch a bunch of different people, again, just come together with their passions to make a big company succeed. So
do you have anything you want to say on that?
No, I agree with Amanda. It's just, when I started, I was the only RBT in Cedar City at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was getting a lot of support from a BCABA in Richfield. So she had to travel all the way from there to Cedar City to...
What is that, like a 45-minute drive or an hour?
I think it's maybe more than an hour. I don't remember, but
that's dedication.
It is, and she's still here. Shout out Hope.
Yeah, Hope.
I got a lot of support from her when I first started as a technician, and eventually, we ended up getting a tiny center, probably the size of like this room. I'm not kidding you. And that's where we were doing treatment and services. And as we just continued to grow and hire and bring in more kids for services, we just got a bigger building upstairs and we were busting out of the seams from there. And so I ended up moving up here and we were busting out of the seams there. So we ended up moving again. So growing and growing.
Did it take a lot of resilience with that growth?
Yes, lots and lots of resilience. And a lot of kids were also just getting more services throughout Cedar City and, up here, just throughout the area around here. More kids were getting that support. Families.
A lot of positions have come out of the growth as well. Like we didn't used to have like professional leads and mentors, and now there's a need for it. So the company made positions out of that, so that way all of our staff could be supported in their different roles as well. So it's been fun to kind of see that growth expand as well.
Yeah, I agree. When I first started, I didn't have a mentor. There weren't leads. It was just like self-designated leads that just kind of had that personality type that would just kind of take over and support the groups and everything. And now there's specific positions for each thing to make sure everybody is supported on every level.
Can you go into what a lead and a mentor specifically, what they are and what they do?
Yeah, so mentors and leads are RBTs. Mentors focus on the individual staff, so they focus on their growth, training them. They do our shadow sessions when a new hire just begins. They check in with them weekly to make sure that they have everything they need to be successful here. The leads focus on the treatment of the clients, so they oversee certain age groups. They make sure that the RBTs are following schedules and implementing the clients' tokens, economies, and reinforcement systems, and just making sure that the group is, doing what they need to be doing and clients are getting good treatment.
How important are each of those positions? Can both of you pick one?
I'd say extremely. This job is really hard, and so it's really nice to have a team like with those dedicated positions to make sure that everybody does feel supported. So as Lisa was saying, the lead kind of takes over the responsibilities for the entire cluster, and so it's really helpful to have them preparing the lesson so they know exactly what they're teaching, making sure each kiddo is able to engage in that lesson, taking the time to get the appropriate materials and things like that, and really setting up that whole cluster for success. Our leads are also very knowledgeable about every single client's behaviors and their token systems within each program that they have. And so if a mentor is not available at the time, they can also kind of step in and support that. But I would say that, the leads jobs are super crucial to make sure that our treatment is running appropriately. And you can speak to mentors.
Yeah, as far as mentors go, I wish I had one when I first started. I was just kind of thrown in there, baptism by fire at the time, because it was a smaller company 9 years ago. And so I had to learn a lot from trial and error, but I didn't have a mentor to check in with me and see how I was doing. I actually had to go down to St. George for any sort of more support, I guess. in that aspect. And so mentors are extremely helpful to making sure that documentation is completed and making sure that RBTs know how to do that documentation for insurance and making sure that they know how to do their job. That is a basic thing, is making sure that they know what they're doing here, how they are someone that the RBT can go to when they need support. Sometimes here it's like there's so many positions and so many people. Who do I go to talk about this with? But when you have that mentor, you know exactly where to go.
No, that's awesome. It sounds like the technician's position, I think it was an ITV, or interventionist, when it was like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
It sounds like the position and the framework for the leadership has been able to change so much and adapt. It's probably really helpful for you as directors to have that touching point, with the technicians and new employees. Let's kind of go into, how does that affect your leadership style? Like, how do you lead?
I have loved having the new systems evolve. I will say it did take me a second to adjust to it because I was used to doing everything. Before the mentor positions were put into play, I was a solo director for a little bit, and then I did have a director come in and support me in some of them. So there was parts of my employment where I was over literally everything, and it could be kind of a lot, or, and it was a really great challenge, and I always had support when I needed it. But having those positions kind of unfold were really impactful, because then I could focus on other leadership things and being more present. I think my favorite thing about being a leader is really just making those relationships with my staff and, seeing how are you doing? What are you interested? What's your passion? What do you need to feel successful? Things like that. I don't get to work with as many clients as I used to anymore, being more in an administrative position. And that's kind of where my joy comes from, is being able to serve the families. And so I've switched my perspective to being, how can I support the techs that then can support even more families than I would be able to do so solo? And so I just really love watching my staff succeed makes me really happy. So that's kind of where I like to go from here.
Yeah, one of my favorite things from seeing all these positions evolve and be created is seeing more leaders being, created themselves. With mentors and leads and professional leads, professional mentors, lead clinicians, all sorts of positions that have grown and been created. I've seen so many leaders coming out of that, and so many people stepping up and really taking their job serious and understanding this field is not for the weak, and understanding it's for those that have big hearts, and understanding the importance of good quality training and supporting, the staff around you, because it's not an easy job. And a lot of the times we have to lean on each other to get through those hard days. So that's been my favorite thing of seeing all of these things evolve.
That's awesome. That's great. I think it's so important these days that we're not, especially as a company, it's really team-based. I know people say there can be an analogy of like, we're a family. It's like, well, really, we're more like a team, because we do lean on each other. We do require that backup, and we can't do it alone. So I love that you said that, how you can lean on each other. As a BCBA, as a clinical director, how do you empower either other clinicians or just your team? How do you empower them to want to have that initiative to be a leader?
I think it's really fun to kind of, again, look at the team's strengths and see, what we can learn from each other, because not everybody has all the same answers or the same perspectives, trainings, experiences. And so I think really, as Lisa said, like leaning on each other, putting our heads together can be really helpful, because we all have something to bring to that table and can teach each other. So I think that that's a really good way to do it. And my motto is probably be curious, because there's something to learn from every situation. I don't think I've ever had to do as many mental backflips as I have in my time working here. And I think initially it probably was like frustrating maybe, because I'm like, well, another problem. And now I'm like, bring them on. It's really fun. I don't know, just way that I look at situations and I'm like, we got this. And so I think I can try to instill that in future leaders coming up, because there's always a solution. You just might have to pivot's another word we like to use here a lot. So either pivot or take a step back and look at something different, or in a different way, I mean. So.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the word pivot. I think that's a big thing of this job is, you might have some come to you with a problem and you might not have all the answers. So that's where you can go to your other coworkers, or, there's times where I have to go to Amanda and I'm like, Amanda, what do we do in this situation? And she helps me through that, and I help her through situations. Or, I might go to a clinician for some support on a situation, and they might help me. So it's like, it's not, it's not necessarily linear. I might go to an RBT for some support because I may not know how to handle a situation fully myself. And so really, it's like every level relies on each other for getting through tough situations.
As far as those that are interested, like maybe they're technicians now or interns, what would you say to future BCBAs in this field? What advice would you want to give them?
I would say build rapport with those families, really get to know them and their situations. And same with, the clients, really get to know them, understand what they love and connect with them. Try to understand them before you try to change them. I think a big thing too is just making sure that you're continuing your education and always learning.
I definitely agree with all that. I'd also say give yourself grace as you're starting out, because not every intervention that you learned in school is going to be the right intervention for each kiddo. That's why we focus so hard on individualizing treatment, because every single person, every single family has different individual needs. And so, recognizing that, oh man, this great intervention I had in place was supposed to be perfect. It's not working. That's okay. Let's take a step back, look at it again, and figure out how we can try again. And just really creating that, I guess resilience is the word, to keep going when you feel like you thought you had it, but we can figure out a different way.
Yeah. And going off what Amanda said, just relying on the whole team in general. I'm a BCBA. I'm not a mental health clinician. I don't have a lot of answers when it comes to mental health diagnoses and maybe why a client is engaging in specific behavior. So it's like I rely a lot on the full team. The RBTs are a big driving force of treatment teams, and they do so much. And so relying on the RBT's input and collaborating with all levels, med management, mental health clinicians, maybe occupational therapists outside of UTBS, just school teachers and everything, just really understanding the importance of the whole client's team in general.
Absolutely. Just because you're done with school does not mean you have all the answers. There's still so much learning to do. And again, taking advantage of your team to help you do that, I think it's really impactful.
And I think part of that too is having the patience, not just, obviously it takes a lot of patience to work in this field, I feel like, but having the patience for yourself to know that you're heading in the right direction on that path to growth. And I want to talk a little bit more on some of the, you had mentioned continuing education. How does UTBS help support continuing education in your experience? What have you seen?
I mean, UTBS put me through my master's degree, and so I'm super thankful for that. But on top of that, I'm required to do my CEUs and continuing education stuff. So they've also supported me with going to conferences and learning more about, specific interventions or specific populations. They've really helped me complete those required CEUs each year or every 2 years. And so they've been very supportive in making sure that we get that learning experience.
Yeah.
I think the other really cool thing with the continuing education experience here is a lot of the times UTBS puts on their own conferences, and they will find people that are passionate about presenting or on certain topics, and then they actually get that chance to go teach the rest of the team. And it's not just one region, it's pulling all the regions together. And I think that that's really impactful, and just it's super fun to get to know the rest of the team members. And, we all have the same goal to strengthen as many families as we can. So it's really fun to get CEUs that way. They've sent us to conferences all over, whether it's out of state, in state, so that's always really cool. I think one of my favorite conferences that we go to is our Entree Leadership Conference. I know that that's technically not CEUs, but it's been really cool to be put through a conference to gain leadership skills, because I didn't go to school to be a leader. I didn't really know what I was doing when I got put in this position, but it's really awesome that this company takes the time to say, hey, you're in this position, let's give you some skills and some supports to make sure that you're thriving there. So not only do you get CEUs for those, you also get some other experience in whatever job position that you have.
Yeah, and something that I love too about UTBS is they really focus on their employees' well-being, and so they focus a lot on the self-care. There's self-care conferences that we've attended that UTBS has put on. There's self-care conferences that the directors have attended to make sure that we're taken care of so we could take care of our team. I really appreciate that about UTBS.
What do you think? I was just going to touch on this too. Leadership skills. What do you feel has been the most valuable leadership skill you've been able to learn? Maybe it's something you knew or maybe something you didn't know.
Mine would 100% be delegate. It's something I'm still working on to this day. I think just due to some of my history and stuff, I like to have control and I like to make sure things get done correctly. However, I have found a lot of reward in backing off. Again, it was a learned skill, so it took me a minute, but it's been so fun to watch others take over things and then watch them excel with it. And so, again, just identifying people's strengths and delegating to them, I think has been really, really helpful for me as a leader.
Yeah, something for me is just understanding each individual and creating those relationships. It's really nice when, not just with clients, but like with the staff, you want your staff to understand, you want to know your staff and you want to create those relationships with them because they are important. They do a lot for this team. You really want to build that connection with them. So that's mine.
How do you feel? I know you had mentioned some of the conferences and continuing education. I think the last thing is how do you feel UTBS grows leaders from the newest employee to the most senior director?
I think a lot of the time they try to put fillers out there to see if anybody has interest and then listening to those interests to see, how it fits into whatever position's coming up or if a position needs to be created. And then again, just finding the resources and tools that they need to be successful in those type of positions or courses that they're going. The conferences are helpful, again, pairing them with mentors throughout the state because we do have so many different regions. It's nice to be like, hey, so-and-so also has a passion in this. Why don't you connect with them so that you can, check in and see if this is something you're really into or, gain the support from them that you're needing.
Yeah, I think going off that, just there's a lot of passionate individuals that start here and they may not know where they're going with their degree or they may have a degree and still not know what they're doing with it. And so I think UTBS and directors of each region can kind of see those ones that are passionate. And I mean, that happened to me as I was very passionate in this field. I just had my bachelor's in psychology and I was just going to end up being an RBT forever. But my boss at the time saw that I was passionate and you could create a career out of this and you could continue to grow. So
what are some of the requirements to grow as far as, you had your bachelor's in psychology and you kind of mentioned you didn't know where you wanted to go. Can you kind of talk about maybe what are some of the requirements to become a BCBA or even your background as a mental health clinician as a LCSW?
Yeah, so as a BCBA, you have to have a bachelor's degree and then you have to further your education and get a master's degree. Before I was a BCBA, I was a BCABA. So you just have to have your bachelor's degree and then just do some continuing education type courses for a couple years. And then you take the big board exam. For the BCBA, it's about 2 years of schooling. You get your master's in behavior analysis and then you take the big board exam to become board certified.
Okay.
And you also have to have your supervision hours.
How many of those hours do you have to get? It's quite a few, isn't it?
1,500 hours.
1,500 for concentrated and 2,000 for field work.
How long does that take?
Working here, It was really easy to get because as working here full time, I got my hours super fast. It depends on how much you're working and how much support you're getting from your supervisors. But here there's no problem hitting those hours because you have so much support from your BCBAs. And
is that kind of a standout for you in the field as far as?
Yes, I see a lot of my colleagues that I went to college with, they are struggling to get some of their fieldwork hours. And it's because they're not getting a lot of support from their supervisors. And so I didn't even realize that was a problem because here it was so easy to get so fast. So
you're like, hey, come collaborate with me and work.
I know, they're out of state.
Oh, dang. That's okay. Yeah. So as far as, I know we kind of touched on the field a little bit there. Where do you see the field going?
Hopefully continuing to help more families, I think. It's, not a lot of people go into this field because it is kind of tricky, but the rewards definitely pay off, even if they're small wins that you can celebrate throughout the day. But I think, just expanding to assist more kiddos and, making it so that maybe the world understands autism a little bit better rather than creating little sections of the world that autism, individuals with autism can engage in. I think it'd be really cool if the field, needed a little bit more acceptance everywhere.
Yeah, I think, bringing in more clients that are on wait lists. There's wait lists everywhere around the state for ABA services. And I could just see it growing even more and more. Even with UTBS, we didn't used to have the medication management. We didn't used to have mental health services like we do now. And so it's growing a lot more in more ways than just ABA. And I think it's going to continue to grow that way.
That 1,500 hours for concentrated and then 2,000 for field work.
For field work.
Can you kind of just explain the difference between those two and what they are?
So the concentrated is just, it's a commitment that you're making to get them done quicker. And so at UTBS, that is a lot easier to do here because of all the opportunities, as Lisa was explaining. The field work is 2,000 hours. So if maybe you don't have quite as many opportunities, a lot of individuals choose that path. So the concentrated does allow you to get the degree a little bit quicker just because you're able to log those hours faster. So it's just kind of nice. So we both did concentrated when we were in our program and we're able to get those done no problem. And then for a mental health clinician, those hours, they're expected to hit 3,000 before they're able to be certified. They're expected to get 20 CEUs as well. UTBS usually has, again, no problem offering those because we're constantly doing lunch and learns or conferences and stuff that we throw on or sending our teams to conferences. And so the mental health clinicians come here and they're able to get those hours, I would say, probably in about 2 years, depending on, how long they're working. And the nice thing is there's usually supervisors on site that they get to engage with for an hour each week, and that's where they can staff cases if necessary and, really get that support and check in and make sure that they are, gaining all the skills and confidence needed to hit their caseload requirements. So
I know we talked a lot about UTBS's support with I know we talked a lot about support. How does work-life balance work for you guys, and how have you had to develop that in your own life?
That was definitely a struggle for me initially. I'm getting better at it. Having a kid helped because now I like to go home and play with him, but UTBS was a big part of that. My direct supports will be like, Amanda, why are you working? Go away, politely. Or delegate it if you can or whatever. And so, finding that work-life balance was really difficult for me because I just like to get things done. I want to help as many people as I can. I think attending some of those self-care summits were also very helpful for me in that regards as well, just because I think when we think of self-care, we're like vacations, but really a vacation's not that helpful because you have to pack and then pay for it and then unpack and then you miss a week's worth of work. And it's just not really super great for self-care. And so I think UTBS has taught me more, just more impactful self-care, like making sure I'm getting enough sleep, like taking a day off, like setting my boundaries. They also, I get free childcare through UTBS, which is amazing. And so I know that my son is well taken care of and I can not have to focus on my home life while I'm at work. And then when I get off work, I get to take him home and I don't have to focus on work when I'm at home. And so I think that that's really helped me separate the two and kind of stay balanced.
I know you talked about self-care a lot and people will say, hey, make sure you're doing self-care and take care of yourself. What does that actually look like to you? What are some tips or tricks that you actually do and implement?
I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and I hang out with my family. That's my self-care.
There you go.
Yep. I would say I do the exact same. And like I said, I'm really big on sleep. So I like to go to bed on time and I like to, make connections with other people outside of the field just so that way I can have different conversations and not, flood my brain too much with the same conversations all the time, even though I do love it. But I think just having those outside interactions helps as well.
So what makes UTBS the best choice for someone seeking support in the behavioral science field?
I think UTBS provides it all. It's kind of a one-stop shop. You get your mental health services, your behavior services, your medication management services, your psych evaluation services. You get all those with us.
I definitely agree with that. It's nice to have everything in the same spot so you're not traveling to 6 different appointments in 6 different locations. So I think definitely one location is preferred for most families. It would definitely be for me. I think another really awesome support that we have is because we have 8 regions, we have so many resources. So like if the mental health team is not super confident in an area here, then we can reach out to our Lehigh team or our Crossroads team or our Brigham team or St. George, any of them, right? And so it's really nice to have that many resources. We can reach out to our psychologist as well and say, hey, I've got a question. I want to make sure that I am, approaching the situation appropriately and making sure I'm giving this family the best care I can. Can I consult with you? So I think it's really, really helpful that we have all of those supports within literally our phone call.
It's a big company reach, but small hometown feel.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to thank you guys for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's given me a really good insight into your journey and your personal and professional growth. Is there anything you'd like to leave for our listeners out there?
Whether you're a client or a staff looking to work here, I tell everybody I live here and I'm going to die here, and I feel supported every day that I'm here. Even the days I want to headbutt the wall because I'm frustrated, I still have support in my corner, and I just think that UTBS is great. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I've been here 9 years. I wouldn't be here for that long if I didn't feel that support and that camaraderie. I feel like I continue to grow here, and UTBS provides a lot of opportunities for growth. So I really have enjoyed that aspect.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your guys' time. You truly are what makes this team great. And we have our Best of Northern Utah coming up March 13th through the 27th. So listeners, if you're hearing this right now, voting for Best of Northern Utah for Roy, Brigham City, and any of our northern locations, March 13th through the 27th, go on and vote. We'll put the link in the description below. So again, thank you for your guys' time. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Eric Larson with Bridging the Gap. Don't forget to check us out on social media. We're excited to announce there's a new way you can reach out to us at bridgingthegap@utbs.co. Reach out, collaborate. We'd be excited to hear from your guys' input, and we'll see you next episode.